In 1869, a single moment changed the American frontier forever. Two railroad lines, built from opposite sides of the continent, finally met in the desert of Utah. With one final strike of a hammer, the United States became connected from coast to coast, turning months of dangerous travel into a journey of days. The completion of the Transcontinental Railroad reshaped frontier life, migration, and the future of the American West. Welcome to Frontier History Archive, where we explore frontier history and the real stories of survival, exploration, and life at the edge of civilization. Before railroads crossed North America, travel across the continent was slow and uncertain. Wagon trains spent months crossing plains and mountains, facing weather, illness, and unpredictable terrain. Communication between eastern cities and western settlements could take weeks or even months. The idea of a railroad connecting the nation seemed almost impossible. Engineers would need to build tracks across deserts, rivers, and towering mountain ranges. Supplies had to be transported into remote areas where no infrastructure existed. Construction began during the 1860s. Two companies were tasked with building the railroad from opposite directions. The Union Pacific Railroad started from the east, moving westward across the plains, while the Central Pacific Railroad began in California, pushing east through the Sierra Nevada mountains. Each mile of track required enormous effort. Workers laid rails by hand, leveling ground, placing wooden ties, and securing iron tracks under harsh conditions. Progress depended on teamwork and constant labor. The environments faced by workers differed dramatically. On the plains, Union Pacific crews battled extreme heat, strong winds, and long supply distances. Camps moved constantly as construction advanced westward. Meanwhile, Central Pacific workers confronted one of the greatest engineering challenges of the era, the Sierra Nevada mountains. Steep granite slopes required blasting tunnels through solid rock. Workers used hand tools and early explosives to carve passages where no natural routes existed. Winter added further difficulty. Heavy snowfall buried camps and halted progress for weeks. Workers dug through snowdrifts simply to continue construction. Avalanches posed constant danger in mountain regions. Despite challenges, construction continued at remarkable speed. Railroad companies competed intensely, knowing government payments were tied to the number of miles completed. This competition pushed crews to work long hours under demanding conditions. Temporary frontier towns appeared along the route. These settlements followed construction crews, providing food, supplies, and services. Many disappeared once the railroad moved forward, leaving little trace behind. The railroad also changed economic patterns. Supplies that once required wagon transport could now move by rail, reducing travel time dramatically. Settlements along the route began growing into permanent towns connected to national markets. For workers, daily life revolved around constant movement. Camps included blacksmiths, cooks, surveyors, and laborists from diverse backgrounds. Cooperation was necessary to maintain steady progress across unfamiliar landscapes. As tracks stretched farther across the continent, anticipation grew. The moment when East and West would finally connect symbolized more than engineering success. It represented the closing distance between frontier and civilization. Yet the hardest work still remained before the final rails could meet. As construction crews pushed closer toward the center of the continent, anticipation grew across the nation. Newspapers reported daily progress, and many Americans followed the railroad's advance with excitement. The meeting of the two rail lines promised to transform travel, trade, and communication in ways previously unimaginable. By early 1869, the Union Pacific and Central Pacific Railroads approached one another near Promontory Summit in present-day Utah. Workers raced to complete the final miles of track. Surveyors carefully aligned the routes while crews laid rails across dry desert terrain. After years of labor, harsh weather, and engineering challenges, the end of construction was finally within reach. On May 10, 1869, representatives from both companies gathered for a ceremonial event. A special railroad spike, later known as the Golden Spike, symbolized the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad. When the final spike was driven into place, telegraph messages instantly spread the news across the country. For the first time, the United States was connected by continuous rail from coast to coast. What once required months of dangerous travel by wagon could now be completed in about a week. The frontier, once defined by isolation and distance, suddenly felt closer to eastern cities and markets. The railroad transformed daily life almost immediately. Goods moved faster and more reliably than ever before. Farmers and miners could ship products across the nation, while manufactured goods reached frontier towns with greater ease. Prices stabilized as transportation improved. New towns appeared along the railroad line. Migration patterns changed dramatically. Families who once hesitated to attempt long wagon journeys now traveled west by train. The railroad encouraged settlement across regions that had previously been difficult to reach. Communication improved as well. Telegraph lines often followed railroad routes, allowing news and information to travel rapidly between distant regions. The frontier became increasingly connected to national events and markets. However, the railroad also marked the end of an earlier era. The age of wagon trains and isolated frontier travel began to fade. Trails once crowded with emigrants saw fewer travelers as rail transport replaced months-long journeys. Industries expanded alongside the tracks. Mining operations increased production, agriculture spread into new areas, and trade networks grew stronger. The economic impact reshaped communities throughout the West. Railroad workers themselves represented a diverse workforce. Laborers from many backgrounds contributed to construction, bringing skills and experiences that shaped frontier culture. Their efforts demonstrated how cooperation across cultures made large-scale projects possible. Despite technological progress, life along the frontier still required resilience. Harsh climates, remote landscapes, and economic uncertainty remained part of Western life. Yet the railroad provided stability by linking communities to broader support networks. Over time, the Transcontinental Railroad became a symbol of national unity and industrial achievement. It represented a transition from exploration to connection, from a frontier defined by distance to one integrated into a growing nation. The railroad did not simply move people and goods. It reshaped how Americans understood geography itself. Regions once considered remote became accessible, encouraging new opportunities and accelerating settlement across the continent. Today, remnants of the original railroad route remain as reminders of one of the most ambitious engineering projects of the 19th century. The completion of the Transcontinental Railroad marked a turning point in frontier history, a moment when innovation transformed the challenges of distance into pathways of connection. Thank you for watching Frontier History Archive, where we explore frontier history and the real stories that shape life at the edge of civilization. Until next time, goodbye from Frontier History Archive.